Hi, it's Jonathan Traghi. I'm here today with Matchroom head promoter, Eddie Hearn. How are we doing?
Head promoter. I like that. No, I like that. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Not had that one before, but I'll take head promoter.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
How are we doing today?
I'm all right. Doing good. Doing good. Excited for Saturday.
And you felt the presser went well?
Yeah, yeah. As always, you know, we do probably one of these a week now, so it's. I think we have to get a new format soon.
Right.
Fancy dress, maybe, or you know, live questions, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I think in time we'll have to just change the format a little bit.
Just jazz it up a little bit, maybe. Yeah, no, I like those ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to jump straight in now with the sort of fight that's on everyone's lips at the moment, Froch Groves, obviously. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions to clarify about fighter contracts, because I know that with George, I know that you'd expressed an interest in re-signing George even prior to the first fight with Froch, with Carl. And then following the fight, you also confirmed that you'd welcome him with open arms as a Matchroom fighter. What is the contractual situation now, from your standpoint as a promoter, with George? Is he a Matchroom fighter now?
Well, some of what you said was true and some wasn't. Before the first Froch fight, his contract actually ended with us at the end of September, and that fight was in November. Because of everything going on, I made no play to re-sign him, if you want. I'm not one of those invasive or demonised promoters who makes you sign a contract before you fight, otherwise this fight will not happen. If you want to be with us, you want to be with us. I believe that any UK fighter should want to be with Matchroom. I think we've got the best opportunities and the best platform. So. And the position that George was in was, you know, if he wasn't to beat Carl Froch, then, of course, as I said in everything, we'd welcome him with open arms. And if he did beat Carl Froch, we'd welcome him with open arms as well. And if he did beat Carl Froch, he would have been a box office fighter. And, you know, our involvement with Sky would probably lead him to be working with us. So I was quite comfortable with the position. Then with all the dramas and the controversy of the first fight, it was so difficult to make the rematch that to throw in the politics of also signing with us as well was just another obstacle to overcome. So I didn't see the need to try and do so, and I feel as though it's the same kind of position going into the first fight. If he wins, I'm sure we'll work with him on Sky Box Office. If he doesn't, then I'm sure we'll work with him anyway. So again, it's not, you know, I don't make fighters sign contracts just to accept fights and try and hold them to ransom. If he wants to be with us, he wants to be with us. So, but at the moment, he is not under contract with a promoter, and I don't think he needs to be. You know, we negotiated the fight with him. He's in a good position, and of course, probably his decision moving forward will hinge greatly on the result on May the 31st.
Yeah, and something I've noticed in the build-up to the rematch, sort of during the build-up to the first fight, I thought you were, you know, obviously you have a close relationship with Carl, but I think you remained more impartial. I think maybe, is it fair to say that in the lead-up to this fight, you've been more vocal in your allegiances towards Carl?
Not really. I mean, I wanted Carl to win the first fight. I want Carl to win the second fight. You know, I think that it's only right as his promoter to support him. Yes, he's a client. Yes, he's a friend. I like him a lot as a person and as a fighter. I like George Groves as a person. I think he's a great fighter. But I've got a, you know, it's a different relationship with Carl Froch. He's a good friend of mine. So, and I believe he's going to win the fight.
Yeah.
So, you know, I believed he was going to win the first fight. I knew how difficult it would be. Yeah. He did win the first fight. You know, obviously in controversial circumstances. But this is, you know, no result in this fight would surprise anyone, I don't think, you know, but maybe it's an emotional prediction that I'm making, that I believe Carl Froch will win the fight, but that's just what I think, and you know, I say it how I see it, and you know, I don't think I'm any more vocal or less vocal in the lead up to this fight. I still want Carl Froch to win. I wanted him to win the first fight, and but again, once the bell goes, it's the best, may the best man win scenario.
Yeah, and did you, I can't remember, I can't recall vividly, did you accompany Carl to the ring on the first fight?
Yeah.
And obviously he will be in this fight as well. Okay, fair enough. I suggested that I wrote an article after the first fight, and I suggested that even though Carl has nothing to prove to anyone, at the end of the day, he's a renowned warrior, he's fought the best of the best, that certain critics would question his legacy maybe if he didn't take the rematch with George Groves, given the controversial ending. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's strange almost, but I mean, like when we were looking at the options, you know, people talked about there weren't options. There were definitely options, and those options mainly revolved around Chavez Jr., Golovkin, Ward. Two really tough fights, Golovkin and Ward. Chavez also, by the way, a very, very tough fight. Yeah. But when you actually look at it, Chavez, Golovkin, Chavez in Vegas, by the way, yep. Golovkin, Ward and Groves, which is the easier fight out of those four for Carl Froch. I mean, you'd have to say either Chavez or Groves, yep. Right? And actually going to America to fight Chavez, I mean, he's not a mug, Chavez. People will think that, oh, he's just this guy who eats pizzas. He's not, he's a quality fighter. Yeah. Then stick all the money into the pot and know that Groves is by far the biggest payday. Mm-hmm. So, you know, everything sort of, and also put into the pot that the British public and the broadcaster wants you to fight George Groves. Really, it's half a no-brainer. It was only the, you know, the rivalry, the animosity, the egos that were standing in the way. If everybody was sensible, probably from day one, everyone would have gone, oh, this is the fight, nice one. Yeah. You know, but it wasn't like that at all. It was, no, let's look at other, okay, sure. You know, as a promoter, I'm talking to Carl, I have to present all the options to him. I knew what the biggest fight was, and I think deep down he knew as well. Mm-hmm. And obviously when the IBF called the rematch, there was no turning back, because I believe Froch would have fought Groves anyway, but Froch would never vacate a belt, so it was always going to happen.
And was it as a promoter, when you were discussing the kind of politics and negotiating the second fight, was there an element of that pride factor there for Carl? Because I know in the immediate aftermath of the fight he'd expressed that he's not, you know, he's not really bothered about fighting him again, he won't be up for it, but yeah. Obviously that's changed.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Is there a pride element there? Did you know?
There is. I think Carl Froch, for a long part of his career, has wanted to get the respect of the public for what he's achieved. Any fight fan will know, and you know, he's a victim that his fights didn't receive the exposure that perhaps they should have done. Yeah. That if, let's be honest here, if fight fans, you know, or if the Pascal fight was on, say, Sky Sports, yeah. And then the Taylor fight, I mean, you're talking about a national hero, in my opinion. I mean, the Taylor fight was epic. Anyone who hasn't seen it, just watch it on YouTube. But, you know, if I said to my pals who are casual boxing fans, yeah. Tell me what happened when Carl Froch, they don't even know who Jermaine Taylor is. So, and I think he boxed all over the world, put in all the kinds of performances like this, but just wasn't getting the credit that he deserved. And I think he wanted that, right or wrong, he wanted that. And it's only really when he beat Boutte that it just came in droves. Yeah. And obviously the Mack fight, then the Kessler fight, and it was like all of a sudden he is a national hero, and rightly so. Yeah. And then through the Groves fight, and mainly because of the post-fight interview, he probably, well, he definitely gave a poor post-fight interview, and a lot of the public turned around and said, I don't really like the way he behaved there. Yeah. You can back him up and say, listen, they've just punched holes in each other for 9 rounds, and he doesn't really like George Groves, and he wasn't really in the right frame of mind to have that conversation, but you're judged on certain instances. Yeah. And I think that what Carl's always done is given people fights they want to see. So it would have gone against his ethos to just not given the public the fight they want to see. And when you look at how quickly the fight sold and the demand of the fight, you know that if it wouldn't have happened, it would have affected not just Carl Froch's career, but probably the sport of boxing as well, because we need fights like this.
Absolutely, yeah. In a recent interview I did with Joe Gallagher, he kind of likened getting the nod for Wembley with one of his fighters as sort of like getting a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Yeah. I was just going to ask you, you know, have you been sort of bombarded by fellow promoters, fighters in your stable, trainers, to let their fighter be on such a monumental
bill.
Definitely
fighters, you know. And the main problem with the show is that, you know, the first fight will go on at probably 6:30, and the main fight will start around 10 p.m. So you're really only looking at 3.5 hours of action, undercard action. So you're looking at 3 championship fights, 12-round fights, and then probably a 6 or an 8-rounder. So you've got Anthony Joshua, you've got James DeGale, and you've got 2 others, which is likely Kevin Mitchell and another one that will be announced later. So there's not a lot of opportunities. You know, for a normal undercard, we put 8 or 9 fights on. This undercard will have 4 fights, but it will have a lot of high-quality stuff. But, you know, every fighter would love to be on it. It's one of those memorable nights in British boxing history. Yeah. Unfortunately, we've probably got 30 fighters and not enough space for all of them. But let's hope this is the first of many of these kind of nights.
And would it be fair to say that pretty much all 30 fighters in the stable have texted you at some point?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.